Greetings, beloved Princeton United Methodist Church community. It's Pastor Jenny here with an update for you, and I'm reading from the 146th Psalm, verses 5 through 7. Happy are those whose help is the God of Jacob, and whose hope is in the Lord their God, who made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, who keeps faith forever, who executes justice for the oppressed, who gives food to the hungry. This is the word of life. Thanks be to God. Thank you all so much. Thank you to all you who have given care and prayer and well wishes to Bobby and Elliot and I. We were down with COVID the past week or so. We are all doing so much better now. And I plan to be in worship this coming Sunday leading, but you can probably still hear that there's some congestion in my voice, but better all the time. So thank you, thank you. You know, we are still in the midst of Lent. We're headed toward Holy Week, though. It's coming soon. And we've been talking about, through Lent, restoring our Sabbath practices so that we can be restored. And it's really common, I think, and normal, a natural thing for us to think about Sabbath as an individual practice, something that's between me and God, something that is kind of a more interior task. It's something that I have to work out on my own, and it is about my own restoration much of the time. We've also talked about how over these last a few weeks, we've talked about kind of moving from that individual personal practice of Sabbath to how our Sabbath practices affect other people's Sabbath practices and how we can encourage each other in these ways. We've talked about how Sabbath practice affects the land and the earth. And so we're continuing to look at how our Sabbath practice isn't only about us and our own practice. It's not just about me and God and our own little thing that we've got going on. It is about a communal way that we connect with God, but it's also about a communal way that we are God's people and we are caring for one another. You know, in the Wesleyan tradition, of which we are a part, we talk about these two movements of our spiritual life. We talk about acts of piety, which are more inward focused work. And it is things like Sabbath, things that are our devotional life, our prayer life, our those things that do feel often like they're between us and God. And then we talk about acts of mercy, and those are the more outward-facing acts, the things that move us out into our community. They are acts of compassion and justice. They are more communal in nature. But in the Wesleyan tradition, too, we talk about how these things are not two separate things, though. Even though they are separate directions, there's this inward and outward thing. They are in connection with each other. They are interwoven. They kind of dance and play together. And our inward journey, our acts of piety, those things that are between us and God, are meant to send us out to be part of a community, to work for justice and the transformation of our world. And when we go out and do those things, they should send us back, right, to be in the more reflective space with God. So as we're talking about Sabbath, as we're talking about this, that we probably, most of us, first think of as an act of piety, something that's deeply personal, something that is kind of shaped around our needs and our abilities and our readiness and all of that. We're also starting to see how our Sabbath practices are interwoven with that of others, with not just the practices of others, but the well-being of others, the justice. And reminding ourselves again that God's desire for us is to be living in God's kingdom, in this ultimate Sabbath existence, knowing that we are all one, we are all in this, in the communal and personal spaces that God has created us for. That we know God is our God and we are God's beloved people, and we act like that. We act like that all the time in all the things that we do. Sabbath is one of the aspects of that kingdom living. We can also call it Jubilee living, right? And we can, and so this week we are looking at this particularly, the relationship between Sabbath and justice. And these are two clearly kind of inward, outward things, but they are related to each other. They're related to each other. So I wonder how that plays in your own mind. What is the relationship to you between Sabbath and justice? What are the ways that our Sabbath practices help create justice? What are the ways that justice, working for justice, helps to create Sabbath? These are some of the things that we invite you to venture into and to think about today, and through the rest of this week, as we continue with our daily Lenten Sabbath practices, as we continue to share with others, as those of you who are in small groups, this is a place where we can converse together as well. So the connection between justice and Sabbath, and how these two things are in partnership together. Friends, it's always such a joy to be on this journey with you, and remember that you were created for joy, you were created for Sabbath, you are God's beloved, and may you know that with every fiber of your being today. Go in peace, and we'll be together soon.